Hello. General Hospital today will reveal, in the ever-evolving landscape of General Hospital, the most seemingly minor plot threads often hide the seeds of something far more explosive. Such is the case with the recent development involving Rocco Falconry, whose quiet decision to fulfill court-mandated community service hours at the hospital may now thrust him into the middle of a web of deceit, manipulation, and power plays that extend far beyond what anyone could have predicted. While audiences may have assumed that Rocco's storyline would unfold in the background, the January 22nd episode planted a very intentional seed when Rocco donned a GH uniform and signed paperwork to begin his hours of labor. The very visibility of this moment suggests that the writers have no intention of regulating his arc to mere filler. Instead, it now appears to be the crucial setup for a storyline that could shake up not just Rocco's life, but also that of Willow and Drew, whose private actions might not be as hidden as they believe. The intriguing twist begins with a classic soap trope, eavesdropping. In a show that thrives on secret conversations and accidental revelations, Rocco may soon find himself overhearing something that he was never meant to know. The buzz surrounding Willow's behavior, particularly in scenes where she is alone with Drew, suggests a stark contrast between her public persona and her private intentions. While Willow has presented herself as emotionally wrecked by Drew's recent health crisis and the grim prognosis handed down by Lucas Jones, cracks in her facade are becoming increasingly evident. To the outside world, Willow appears devastated, going through the emotions of grief and uncertainty with the kind of performative sadness expected someone in her situation. However, in the quiet solitude of Drew's hospital room, where no eyes are supposed to be watching, the truth might be far more unsettling. Whispers within the hospital corridors hint that Willow is not as heartbroken as she pretends. When the door is closed and she believes she is alone, Willow reportedly speaks with a tone of satisfaction, even glee, particularly in conversations with Drew himself. Such behavior not only signals emotional manipulation, but also opens the door to a darker possibility, that Willow may be using Drew's medical condition for personal advantage. Whether to consolidate sympathy, manipulate alliances, or secure her position within the Corinthos and Quartermain spheres of influence, Willow's duplicity, if proven, would represent a staggering betrayal, especially given how deeply Drew has trusted her. This is precisely where Rocco's role becomes pivotal. As a community service worker, he has both access and anonymity, traits that make him the perfect silent observer. No one is likely to suspect that a teenager doing mandated volunteer work would be in a position to overhear confidential exchanges between influential adults. The invisibility becomes his greatest strength. If Rocco stumbles upon a moment where Willow drops her facade, perhaps gloating to Drew about a scheme or carelessly revealing that her grief has been feigned, he could become an unexpected witness to something with massive implications. Furthermore, the psychological impact on Rocco must not be underestimated. He is at a formative age, trying to understand right from wrong, loyalty from justice, and truth from illusion. If he hears something he shouldn't, he would be thrust into an impossible moral quandary. Should he expose Willow and risk the wrath of her supporters, or keep what he knows to himself and let a manipulative narrative continue to harm those around her, possibly even Drew, whose recovery may depend on clarity, honesty, and authentic emotional support? The decision would weigh heavily on someone still grappling with his own role in society, especially given that his service at GH is already part of a larger redemption arc. Additionally, Rocco's connection to Dante and Lulu gives his discovery even more weight. If he shares what he knows with Dante, it could set off a chain reaction through Port Charles's tight-knit community. With Dante's background as a detective and his sense of duty, such a confession wouldn't remain a quiet family matter for long. And if Lulu, even in her current condition, were to be looped into the fallout through her family network, the repercussions would echo far beyond the hospital walls. It could trigger rifts in alliances, reignite long-dormant feuds, or even prompt legal or ethical inquiries into Drew's care or Willow's conduct. And Tracy sees Martin as more than a charming legal mind. She sees the insecurity behind his confidence, the disappointment that lingers in his eyes when love fails him again. There is respect here forged not by admiration but by recognition. Each is a mirror to the other's failures and wounds. What began as an accidental snowbound encounter has now sown the seeds for a relationship built not on idealism or fantasy but on the truth of experience. The fire between them is not the blazing heat of new passion, but the slow burn of reluctant understanding. This is the kind of emotional slow burn that gives weight to a story. The kind that doesn't need declarations or dramatic kisses to be deeply affecting. Whether or not their relationship turns romantic remains to be seen. But even if it doesn't, the emotional intimacy they've begun to build is something rare and valuable, especially for characters as seasoned and complicated as Tracy and Martin. In a town full of secrets, masks, and fleeting alliances, the connection between Tracy Quartermaine and Martin Gray is a breath of fresh air, even when buried under layers of snow and old grudges. Their shared history, their grudging respect, and their willingness to confront hard truths make this relationship one of the most watchable dynamics on General Hospital today. It's a story that reminds viewers that redemption, connection, and even affection can grow in the most unexpected places between two people who, against all odds, might be exactly what the other needs. In the ever-twisting world of General Hospital, where loyalties shift like sand and trust is as fragile as glass, a new alliance may be forming, one that could spell doom for Drew Kane. The emerging connection between Tracy Quartermaine and Martin Gray is quickly becoming more than just witty banter and reluctant mutual respect. Recent spoilers suggest that their simmering camaraderie might be evolving into a strategic partnership with a shared target in sight. If this unlikely duo were to combine forces, their sights would be set squarely on dismantling Drew's carefully curated empire of charm, deception, and unchecked arrogance. Tracy has never been one to let betrayal go unanswered. And in her eyes, Drew's decision to walk away while Ned Quartermaine, a man who not only shares her bloodline but her pride, was suffering a heart attack, was nothing short of monstrous. For a woman like Tracy, this was more than a moral failing. It was a declaration of war. In her world, loyalty to family is paramount. And Drew's absence at that critical moment was not just a lapse in judgment, it was an unforgivable crime. When she recounted this incident to Martin, the seasoned attorney was visibly stunned. Up until that moment, Martin had remained comfortably unaware of the betrayal lurking behind Drew's well-manicured facade. It is this moment of revelation that may catalyze a power shift in Port Charles. Tracy, with her razor-sharp instincts and unflinching determination, it now sees Martin as more than just a man with a questionable past. He is a weapon waiting to be wielded. And Martin, always, the pragmatist, is beginning to realize that loyalty has little value when compared to opportunity. Drew might pay his legal bills, but Tracy offers something far more seductive: leverage, vindication, and potentially a redemption arc that could even impress his morally upright sister Laura Collins. For Drew, the danger lies in his complacency. He trusts Martin not out of deep friendship or shared values, but because Martin has always seemed like a man who knows his place in the food chain. In Drew's mind, Martin is just another service provider, a man who can be bought and paid for, whose loyalty is tied to a checkbook. But Drew's mistake is one of hubris, assuming that transactional loyalty is unshakable. Martin may wear the mask of a compliant advisor, but behind that southern charm lies a mind that calculates every advantage. And if the balance of power tips in Tracy's favor, Martin's loyalties could and likely will pivot just as quickly. What makes this potential alliance even more compelling is that it doesn't rely on romance to function. Tracy and Martin don't need candlelit dinners or flirtatious glances to become one of the most dangerous duos in town. Their power lies in their intellect, their shared cynicism, and their mutual desire to be underestimated no longer. Tracy brings a legacy, the reach, and the Quartermaine name. Martin brings the legal finesse, the charm, and insider access to Drew's strategies. Together, they form a dynamic that transcends personal gain. It becomes about balance, about restoring a sense of justice, and perhaps most importantly, about proving that they are still forces to be reckoned with in a world that often overlooks them. Martin also has another motivator lurking just beneath the surface: his sister Laura. A woman of integrity, compassion, and civic duty. Laura has made no secret of her disappointment in some of Martin's past actions, especially his manipulation of Monica Quartermaine's estate. Martin's decision to falsify a will, one that stated the Quartermaine mansion should be handed over to Monica's sister, Ronnie Bard, was a dark stain on his professional and moral reputation. Aligning with Tracy now could offer Martin a rare opportunity to regain some measure of honor in Laura's eyes, especially if he helps dismantle a man whose ethics have proven just as compromised, if not worse. This plan, if it comes to fruition, would be surgical in its precision. Tracy's first move might be to expose Drew's negligence, using her vast social capital to turn public sentiment against him. Meanwhile, Martin could subtly manipulate legal documents, uncover financial inconsistencies, or even entrap Drew in a legal corner from which there is no graceful exit. And all the while, Drew, overconfident and secure in the illusion that his allies remain loyal, would never see it coming until the final blow is struck. Their vendetta is not about vengeance alone. For Tracy, it is about preserving the legacy of her family and punishing a man who dared to treat her lineage with such blatant disregard. For Martin, it is about reclaiming a sense of personal agency and rewriting the story that others have crafted for him. In taking down Drew, they would be taking back power from a man who has coasted too long on charm and luck, reminding Port Charles that the truly dangerous people are those who are underestimated. Should this alliance proceed, Drew may find himself not only outmaneuvered but utterly isolated. His financial resources may dwindle, his credibility may crumble, and his legal protections, once safeguarded by Martin, could suddenly become his undoing. And as Tracy and Martin watch the fallout unfold, they may find that in each other they have discovered not only a valuable ally, but a rare sense of validation that neither of them expected to find at this stage in their respective journeys. This storyline, rich in history, personal stakes, and thematic depth, offers a refreshing break from the conventional romantic entanglements that often dominate soap narratives. Instead, it presents a cerebral, character-driven arc in which grudges become fuel, and strategic alliance becomes the sharpest weapon. Tracy and Martin may not wear capes, but in this scenario they don't need to. Their intelligence, ambition, and shared disdain for Drew's arrogance make them a force capable of reshaping the landscape of General Hospital one calculated step at a time. Martin's decision to forge Monica Quartermain's will, rewriting the inheritance to benefit Ronnie Bard instead of Tracy, was an act not only of legal fraud but of deeply personal cruelty. It wasn't a move born out of professional necessity or even greed, but one driven by a desire to punish Tracy, to get even for the way she had meddled in his personal life and shattered his relationship with Lucy. That makes his betrayal all the more ruthless. Tracy, who stood as the rightful heir to the Quartermain legacy, who had shouldered the weight of the family name in Monica's absence, was not merely deprived of a property, she was robbed of the respect, the history, and the symbolic acknowledgement that her loyalty to the family deserved. Martin's calculated act undermined more than a will. It attempted to erase Tracy's place in the Quartermain hierarchy, all for the sake of revenge. And in a world as cutthroat as Port Charles, that kind of betrayal strikes at the very core of identity and legacy. Yet what makes this narrative arc so compelling is that redemption is still within reach. Despite the damage done, Martin has a chance to right his wrongs, not by apology or symbolic gestures, but by aligning himself with the very woman he tried to ruin. If he were to join forces with Tracy to take down Drew, it would not only shift the power dynamic in town, it would also mark the beginning of Martin's atonement. It would be a signal that he's willing to step back from his pettiness, to acknowledge the strength and legitimacy of Tracy's position, and to use his cunning in service of justice rather than personal vendetta. And Tracy, as pragmatic as she is, perceptive, might just allow that alliance, not because she's forgiven him, but because she recognizes the advantage of a sharp mind when pointed in the right direction. Their partnership would be thrilling to witness precisely because it is born not of affection but of necessity and mutual recognition. Even if romance never finds a foothold between them, their shared history and capacity for strategic thinking create an electric tension. Watching two adversaries who once tried to destroy each other now combine forces would offer viewers the kind of layered, emotionally charged drama that General Hospital excels at. Their combined wit, experience, and unflinching moral flexibility would make them a formidable duo, especially when targeting someone as calculated and slippery as Drew. Drew may think he has the upper hand. He may believe that money and status guarantee loyalty, that having Martin on retainer means having him under control. But what Drew fails to understand is that Martin is no longer acting out of obligation or paycheck, he's acting out of choice. And that choice may now tilt toward aligning with the very woman he once saw as his enemy. That realignment would change everything. For Martin, it's a chance to not only rewrite his own story, but to prove to his sister Laura and to himself that he's capable of doing the right thing even if it serves his interest at the same time. For Tracy, it's an opportunity to reinforce her position as the true head of the Quartermain family and to rid herself of a man she views as a disloyal opportunist to abandon her kin in their most vulnerable moment. More importantly, there is a quiet, underlying truth that may surface if this alliance takes hold. Tracy and Martin are both in their own ways isolated figures. She, the aging matriarch hardened by a lifetime of betrayal and family dysfunction. He, the charming but directionless attorney forever living in the shadow of past mistakes and familial expectations. In joining forces, they may come to see not just a shared target in Drew, but a shared strength in each other. Together they are more than the sum of their parts. Tracy brings legacy vision and a ruthless sense of justice. Martin brings agility, intelligence, and the ability to navigate the gray spaces where law and morality blur. If they succeed in bringing Drew down, it won't simply be about vengeance. It will be about reclaiming control over their names, their legacies, and the narratives others have tried to write for them. Theirs is not a partnership born of softness, but of fire tempered by experience, sharpened by betrayal, and fueled by a desire to no longer be used as pawns in someone else's game. Watching them come to this realization could be one of the most satisfying evolutions in General Hospital's current. Ultimately, Tracy and Martin may come to discover that they are at their most powerful when they stand on the same side. Not because they trust each other fully, trust in Port Charles is always conditional, but because they understand each other. They see the ruthlessness in each other's eyes and respect it. And as they turn that shared strength toward a common enemy, they may finally find what they've each been searching for all along. Not just victory, but validation. Not just revenge, but relevance. And perhaps in some quiet, unspoken way, redemption.